The industry of legal sports gambling is taking the country by storm. According to the American Gaming Association, more than $50 billion was bet on sports in the U.S. last year. That's up from $21.6 billion in 2020. And many states have not yet reported their December numbers rather. New York State, meanwhile, just launched mobile sports betting last weekend. So let's bring in Khristopher Brooks to discuss the impact of online gambling in the states. Experts are predicting that New York State will set new records for wagers placed. How much are they expecting?
Well, good morning, Enrique. The experts I spoke to didn't give me an exact figure, but they predicted that that New York is going to break the record. Now, the current record is set by the state of Arizona. It set it back in the fall, and the first 2 months of Arizona having its sports gambling legalized, they generated $777 million in placed bets. So New York is expected to beat that record. So I guess I would say, what, 778 million or something higher than that. No one really knows what the exact number will be until they actually report the sports handle, but it's something north of 777 million, Enrique.
Wow.
So we've got like a few online companies that have been given the green light to go forward with gaming. Which companies are going to benefit from this?
So we have a handful of companies right now, Anne-Marie, that are already allowing bets. We have Rush Street Interactive, you have Caesar Sportsbook, you have FanDuel, you have DraftKings, and that's just the first handful right now. There's a lot of other companies that have already applied to get into New York, and I suspect the Gaming Commission are going to give them a green light here soon, but this is the first crop right now. Just expect a lot more.
I just learned that New Jersey is the top betting market in the country, Khristopher. How might New York's online gambling impact the Garden State?
You're right, Enrique. New Jersey is the top sports betting state, but part of the reason that is because there's some downstate New York residents that will actually go across the bridge, go across the river, and place their bets in New Jersey and then come back home. But now that it's legalized in New York, the experts have told me that a lot of those gamblers will probably stay home and place their bets in New York. So there's an estimated between 25 and 30% of those New Jersey bets that are going to go back to New York because those people just won't go across the GW and place their bets. They'll just stay at home. We don't really know if that's going to be the case, but you need to do like 2 or 3 more months of each state's gaming associations reporting their sports handle to see if that's really going to take effect, and look at the numbers then.
So, of course, states want to do this because there's a lot of tax money to be made. This is probably going to be a significant tax boom for New York State. Do we have any idea just how much money is earmarked for any of these projects?
You're absolutely right on that, Anne-Marie. So in New York, we won't really know the exact numbers until the activity starts, but I've seen some estimates say that by 2025, the New York tax revenue on sports gambling is expected to reach almost 500 million, somewhere around 493 million. But for right now, what we do know is that some of that money is supposed to be earmarked for education, around about 5 million. That number could change. And specifically in education, we're talking like youth sports programs in like low income areas of the state. So maybe, if you live in one of those areas, you might be able to get your kids into a new soccer program or a new hockey program that wasn't there before. The question really is what the state is going to do with the rest of that revenue outside of the stuff that is already earmarked for education.
Of course, and you just mentioned how states are going to profit from this, but what about sports teams? How are they profiting of the expansion of online betting?
Good point, Enrique. So sports teams and for the most part, sports leagues, they've been signing these multi-million-dollar contracts with the FanDuels and the DraftKings of the world to sell them the official statistics and data, from teams, the percentages of how many points Steph Curry makes in an NBA game, or the number of yards a running back makes in the NFL. These are multi-year, multi-million-dollar contracts, and they sell them this data because the sports bettor then uses that intelligence to make at least the best bet that they think that they're going to win with. So it's been big money for not only the state of New York, but for the leagues, most of which are based in New York, as well.
So, the one thing that concerns me, though, and I'm sure a lot of people have brought this up, is just how easy it makes betting. I mean, you don't even have to now necessarily log in on a computer, which is easy enough. It's right in the palm of your hand on your smartphone. If you have a problem with betting, if you have a problem with gambling, I can only imagine that something like this would make it worse. The North American president of DraftKings told CBS News that the company can actually monitor transactions for unhealthy gaming behavior. That's news to me. But I know that a lot of these apps are kind of crafted to be addictive. And I'm not talking about gambling apps. I'm talking about social media apps or some of these these sort of normal games. The dings, the whistles, the colors, it's all meant to kind of like tap into our addictive nature. I don't expect, sports betting sites not to use some of those tactics as well. So what are they doing, though, to make sure that they're responsible, to ensure that people don't, bet the house?
Great point, Anne-Marie. So all of the companies that I mentioned earlier, the Rush Street Interactive and FanDuel, they've been partnering for many years with the Gaming Association to put out programs and put out actual statements and put out actual features on the app to make sure that that bettors don't get addicted to gambling. The Gaming Association is very, very aware of the points that you're making, how quickly this can become addictive. So they have a whole campaign centered around this, and they have the biggest sports betting companies behind them, making sure that not only people are betting responsibly, but they're not betting the house, like you said. They're actually just doing it so that it's fun and it's not putting them in deep financial pressures.
Well, I hope so, Khristopher. Khristopher Brooks, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
So we got to let you know this. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, there is help out there. You can call or text National Problem Gambling Hotline. That number is 800-522-4700. And if you would like to check out more of Khristopher's reporting, just head on over to cbsnews.com/NY Sports Betting. So CBS